Screen Rant, this bastion of great news sources.
Screen activists. I mean,
had this article that came out. Well, it was a couple weeks ago, but it says Amazon's Lord of the Rings makes one Gimli scene even better.
I bet they don't.
Joseph, do you know what scene they're talking about?
I didn't, because I purposely didn't want to look at this.
All right. The article reads, Amazon's The Lord of the Rings series has many fresh stories to tell, but its first season also makes one Gimli scene from the original trilogy even better. Goes through the scheduling stuff. And then it says, The Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power, chronicles the entire Second Age of Middle-earth, which is like such a big... What a statement. To say the show's going to cover, what was it? The entire Second Age, Joseph.
Yeah, right.
Right. From the fall of the kingdom of Numenor to Sauron's rise to power. Among these planned stories is the tale of the dwarven princess Disa, of Khazad-dûm, a non-canonical character designed entirely for Amazon's new The Lord of the Rings series. So let's just say it now. It's confirmed, right? I mean, I know everybody kind of knew it already, but that's confirmation, even from Screen Rant, that this is a completely made-up character. In both Peter Jackson's original Lord of the Rings trilogy and the subsequent Hobbit movies, no dwarven women are shown in line with Tolkien's original works. In The Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers, Gimli alludes to as much as he travels with Éowyn, Aragorn, and Legolas while fleeing Rohan. The dwarf warrior states, "It's true you don't see many dwarf women." And this, in turn, has given rise to the belief that there are no dwarf women and that dwarves just spring out of holes in the ground. As a result, Amazon's The Lord of the Rings is set to improve this Gimli scene from The Two Towers by providing a first look at the almost mythical race of female dwarfs. Do you see what they're doing with this a little bit? The way that they're building up the importance?
Yep.
The Amazon original show... The Amazon original showing... that's just a terrible sentence. The Amazon original showing Disa's reign at Khazad-dûm provides an opportunity, right, for the series to write fitting lore for these oft unseen characters in Tolkien's original work, and provides a look at a race only previously mentioned in passing. Furthermore, Disa's story in The Lord of the Rings can finally shed light on why dwarves are so scarce across the Third Age, which I want to come back to that for a second, because it's really annoying that was written that way. With Gimli, the only dwarf shown in the Lord of the Rings trilogy outside of Galadriel.
They don't know what they're talking about.
Wait, outside of Galadriel... out of Galadriel's... for a second, I was like, what? No, her opening narration.
Yeah.
And the fellowship meeting. So...
They don't know what they're talking about.
No, they don't know what they're talking about.
They don't know anything.
Okay, so they do...
If they're just going off of the Lord of the Rings movies... Well, yeah.
Yeah, there's a little to say there, but there's other dwarves in the meeting at Rivendell, right?
Yeah, which I think they said.
Sort of, but they're saying that it says dwarves are scarce in Gimli, the only dwarf shown in Lord of the Rings trilogy. outside of these things. So it's like, okay, but your point is moot if they've been shown in other places, right?
Yep, that's a weird way to. It's a crafted. Let me say, not crafted. Weird. It's a crafted way to say it, right? To slant the article, right? And it seems like Amazon hand this over to them to say, "Hey, please put this out for us." And so, and realistically, probably what it is this is just someone who's far left that agrees with everything Amazon's doing, and along with Amazon probably saying, "Hey, help us out." But if they also know the lore, they know that during this time in the War of the North, the dwarves were being attacked by Sauron and Erebor. And then there were also, in the War of the Last Alliance, there was a small fraction of dwarves that fought. A small fraction but a primary group that fought in the War of the Last Alliance on the side of the elves and humans, and then also some that fought smaller than the ones that fought with the elves and men, but fought for Sauron as well.
I just wanted to mention this before I forget. I love so they have this whole setup, right, where it says where was it? Chronicle. Well, it was talking about the dwarves being scarce in the Third Age. So it says dwarven women are shown. No, hang on. Alludes. Come on. I should have highlighted it. Gimli scene, providing a first look at almost mythical race. Provides an opportunity for the series to write fitting lore for these often seen characters in Tolkien's original work. Provides a look at a race only previously mentioned in passing. Furthermore, can finally shed on why the dwarves are so scarce across the Third Age. And part of me wants to go, a bunch of them got murdered, right? Like we see what happened to them and why there's so many of them that are missing. Not to mention, right? The dwarves are sort of like secondary to everything that's going on. Like Gimli is specifically there. He's a part of that story.
Well, the whole reason why Gimli was a part of the story was because who was it? Which Dwarven lord was it over Erebor at the time? So Sauron had sent a Nazgul to the Dwarven lord and, basically saying, hey, if you can help me find this ring, if you can help me find the one ring, I'll give you a Dwarven ring of power, and I'll give you Khazad-dûm back and everything like that on behalf of Sauron, right?
Yeah.
And the Dwarven Lord was like, nah, bro, that ain't flying. Well, he bought time. The Nazgul kept coming back, right? Or not the Nazgul, but the Wraith kept coming back. Or the Nazgul. I'm sorry. I was thinking of the Fell Beast when I said that. Yeah. So Nazgul kept coming back, and he kept buying his time, but then that, he wasn't going to betray Bilbo because of or anyone else, but specifically Bilbo because of the relationship he had with Bilbo.
Yep.
And then that's when he sent Gimli and the others to Elrond to warn them.
Yep. So and even listen,
again, even
if
just that, they're not scarce.
Right. And even if we're just
the seven clans.
Right. If we're just going off the movies, right?
Mm-hmm.
We understand that the dwarves in the series are secondary to the main purpose of the story, which is the characters that are specifically shown in the Fellowship and what happens to them and what ultimately leads up to the ring being destroyed.
Right.
Gimli is one of those characters. He is our stand-in for the dwarves. That's why that line is in there, right? That's a little bit of world building, a little bit of character that shows what's going on with dwarves, what's up with dwarven women. It adds context to the books, right? And the lore of understanding that the dwarves all kind of look the same. The women are mistaken for the men all the time. They're also, you know this stuff better than I do, but they also tend to stay hidden, don't they? Like, isn't it true that a lot of the dwarves, and you may have been the one that told me this a while back, but they tend to not be sort of like publicly out there, and it seems to be the case for almost all of the races except for maybe men. That a majority of them, so like hobbits, elves, dwarves, all of them have this tendency to sort of keep to themselves, and they don't really want to interact more than they have to with anyone else.
It depends on the clan of the elves, and hobbits definitely that way.
Yeah.
For the most part, generally speaking, but I would say, when it comes to dwarven women, that's why men have it that, and I even think in Elven legend, but in the men legend in Middle Earth, they thought that dwarves popped out from stone, I want to say, from rocks, that there weren't any dwarven women, and so that's how hidden the dwarven women are, or indistinguishable from the men they are.
So I thought that was kind of just an interesting little article that was like, we're gonna keep getting more of this.
Yep.
Where you're like reading it and you're like, oh no.
Oh no, these shows are just going to prove how low the bar actually is for movies and TV shows.
Yep, I don't disagree. And it's a pretty big statement to say that this specific character is going to enhance one of the most beloved characters in those series of movies. Like he's up there for me. Probably still number one. Yeah. It's just
they could do a better job than Tolkien can, and Tolkien spent his entire life doing this. Like, come on. It's again, it goes back to what I said, narcissism.
Mm-hmm. You're absolutely right. I love, and it's insane too. It's like you can't add more to Gimli at this point. Like let's talk specifically about the movies right now for just a second, and I just to keep it in there, especially because I'm going through them right now. But the scene where Legolas looks at him and he's like, Gimli's like, you could have picked a better spot, and he's like, would you like me to find you a box to stand on? And Gimli just looks at him and laughs. I mean, like, oh gosh,
over the movies, right? Those, like, because in the beginning something like that would have offended Gimli, but you see that, you know, the bigotry and the racism, if I may, that first started off between the elves and the dwarves, right, and the Fellowship, right, when you see Legolas and Gimli, and how over time, you know, it evolves into a great friendship and relationship.
Yep, through conflict and through cooperation.
And that's one of the things you see in Middle Earth is that typically a lot of downfall between elves and men and dwarves comes from that racism of not wanting to cooperate with the elves, the dwarves, you know, and men between themselves against Sauron, right?
Yeah, absolutely.